Don't hire an editor for your thought leadership book before you watch this video. Now, of course, your self published book must go through an editorial process with a professional, but you shouldn't hire an editor for your thought leadership book unless these three things are in place first. Number one, you should have a complete and full understanding of what type of editing you are asking for based on the current state of your manuscript. And you got to understand that too. Number two, you want to make sure that you have done everything that you possibly can do within your own power to perfect your manuscript to the best of your ability at that point that you are at in your manuscript. Be in your first draft phase, you could be in your ninth rewrite. Wherever you are, get that draft to the best possible place you can. And then the third thing that you need to have in place before you hire an editor is you should have a very clear understanding of who your target audience is and a preliminary marketing plan in place for selling your book so that you are well prepared to at least recoup all of the investment that you make into writing and publishing your book. So in this video, I'm going to break down each of those three facets so that before you hire your editor for your thought leadership book, you are well prepared, you are well informed, and you're not going to waste your money or your most valuable asset, your time. I'm Denise Renee, your business book bestie. Here is my signature book, and these are some of my clients. I help professionals write books that make their business, career, or thought leadership brand visible. Hey, business book besties. I've gone ahead and placed timestamps down below and in the description box to make this video easier to navigate. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ask your book writing and editing questions down in the comment section below. So let me get comfortable, child, and let's get right on into me breaking down these three pieces of advice as to why you should not hire an editor before you complete this video. Because I'm trying to save you some coinage, honey, and some time. All right? All right. So right at the start, my first piece of advice to you is this. I said, don't hire an editor for your thought leadership book unless you understand what type of editing you are getting and you understand the current shape of your manuscript. There are three different types of editing that you can get for your manuscript: developmental editing, line editing or copy editing, and proofreading. Now, I've done the work of breaking down each of these different types of editing in this previous video. I'll leave it linked down in the description for you so you can check it out later. So here's why you need to know what kind of editing you are paying for. Number one, editing is typically priced per word. Some professionals may price per page. The more words your manuscript has, of course, the more expensive your editing will be. And you usually need, at bare minimum, at least 2 rounds of editing, at least 1 round of, let's just say you are a fantastic writer. You've done all the great self edits. You've used a program like Pro Writing Aid, which is my favorite editing tool. I prefer it over Grammarly, but Grammarly is very decent as well. But let's say you've done all that and you've gotten the manuscript to be as the best you can get it to be. You're still going to need at least 1 round of line editing. You want somebody else to just go through everything and make sure you've got clarity, you've got good structure, people are understanding you, all of the things. And then once that's done and you've done whatever your final tweaks are, then you give that over to your proofreader. And once your proofreader has approved everything, that's it. That's all. It goes off to your formatter and you're ready to publish. But typically, most people engage editors for multiple rounds of line editing. Or if there are some structural issues, they have to engage them for structural editing as well. And each of these different types of editing are priced at different levels. Proofreading, which is the least expensive type of editing, is typically priced between half a cent and all the way up to 2 cents per word. And that's a little bit more on the pricier side. Line editing or copy editing, depending on the editor, can be priced anywhere between 2 cents to 5 cents per word. And structural editing can be 5 cents a word and up, depending on the editor. So even though the unit price is in pennies, baby, let me tell you, those pennies add up, especially the more words you have. So here's how paying for the wrong type of editing can be a very costly mistake. You might think, hey, I've done all the things. I only need proofreading. You go on Fiverr, you find somebody who's one said the word, and you ask for proofreading. Well, your proofreader's job is just to literally dot all the I's, cross all the T's, make sure all the periods are in place, and do very, very basic grammar fixes. But if you thought that you did all the things, and instead your manuscript is filled with holds, such as missing chapters, you've got placeholder text, or I'll fix this later notes in there, you wasted your time and your money. That's not ready for proofreading. That's ready for you to go back and do some more self editing and fill in all of the blanks before you give it over to someone. Also, if it has not been line edited, your proofreader is not going to do that work for you. They're not going to tell you that, well, this book doesn't really make sense, or this chapter maybe needs to be moved over here, or this point over here wasn't well explained. They're not going to tell you that because that's not their job. That's a line editor's job. And if you publish that book as is, you go ahead and upload to Amazon, your first couple of readers are going to be very disappointed. And don't be surprised if you get low reviews on that book. And you can't get those reviews removed. Okay. And as that saying goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Here's another costly scenario that could happen. You've got 30,000 plus words. You may think that your first draft is ready for line editing. Fix a little grammar here, a little syntax there, and you're going to get with a proofreader in a week after that, and you're meeting your upload target deadline to Amazon in 2 weeks. Whoa, Sally, pump the brake. Because in actuality, especially if you've only given your manuscript the once over, unless you're an absolutely brilliant writer and you have been used to communicating and writing before, a closer examination of your book by your line editor might reveal that there really isn't a clear overall message here. There may not even be a clearly defined audience. Topics can be flying all over the place without much structure. And that's not your copy editor's job to fix structural issues. That's a structural editor's job, aka a developmental editor, aka someone like me, baby. I do both line editing and structural editing and ghostwriting, but I don't do that too often. Got to be the right person, right project for me to get into a ghostwriting project. But I digress. Your copy editor is not going to fix issues such as repetitive chapters, weak organization, tangents and rambling sections, things that just seem like they don't fit, unless they themselves are a structural editor. And then you're going to get another invoice for a higher price for them to do that work for you and with you. The editor that you hire is going to do the best with whatever you give them. And unless you started your project working with a writing coach or you started with a very strong outline for your book, it can be really hard to know what the current state of your manuscript is in. That's why I offer editorial assessments. It's a paid service that I offer where I took a look at your manuscript in its current state, I assess what's working well, and I let you know what your manuscript needs next. So here's what my process looks like. I get a copy of your manuscript, I print it out, it gets a space in one of my binders, I break out my readers, and the sparkly pen, baby. I give your manuscript a thorough read, making notes in the margins the old school way. I tell you at least 3 things that are working well in your manuscript. If I see more, I definitely tell you all of the positive things. I let you know what current state your manuscript is in and at least 3 things you can do next to improve the manuscript. If you need structural editing or line editing, I might provide a sample edit or an example of what type of changes that I would make if you were to take the next step and hire me as your editor. What's nice is that I give you this assessment in the form of an MP3 recording. So it's almost like you're listening to your own personal podcast about your manuscript. And then I also provide a document that summarizes all of my findings so that you have an easy reference. Now, if you choose to work with me as your editor, then I consider the cost of the assessment as a deposit for the editorial work, as long as you get started within 30 days of receiving the assessment. Now, you can also use this editorial assessment as a standalone service where you just get a sense of where you are in the process so that you can make the best decision. You can work with me if you'd like, or sometimes the results of the editorial assessment is that the client needs to go back and do some more rewrites, and I let them know what are the things that they should focus on in their rewriting process. And then they can come back in a few weeks or a few months and do another assessment. Or if someone's shopping and interviewing editors that they want to potentially work with, having an editorial assessment is very helpful because then now you can look and find the editor that's going to work best for your budget as well as work best for your project. So if you have a manuscript in any stage and you want to get a professional editor's opinion as to where it is right now and what to do next, learn more about my editorial assessment and get started by visiting writingwithdeniserenee.com/assessment. So knowing and understanding where your manuscript is and what type of editing it needs in any particular given moment kind of leads me into my next point because it's going to help you to submit the most complete and polished manuscript that you possibly can. So in the video's intro, I said, don't hire an editor for your thought leadership book unless you've done everything you can to perfect your manuscript to the best of your ability. So you want to reduce your costs for editing by using beta readers and self-editing. So what or who are beta readers? So beta readers are going to be people that you kind of gather and you ask to read your manuscript, and you're going to ask them to give you their honest feedback. Now, the people that you pick need to have some objectivity, okay? It can't just be your mom and them or Ray Ray and Pookie and them who just love you and just want to say, baby, this is great. I loved it. It was amazing. Meanwhile, you wrote about your latest discovery in string theory. I mean, that's a really wild example, but sometimes your family and friends are not well versed in your job or in your industry or in your business. So they may not necessarily be the most qualified people to give an opinion that really counts. They're just going to be supportive. And look, we all need supportive people in our corner, but we also need objective people in our corner at the right times. So when it comes to picking your beta readers, you want to look at people who are ideally going to be in your target market. So if you understand who your book is for, what it is that you're talking about, what it is you're looking to help your readers with, find someone who would be that ideal target reader. Sometimes this could be if you are already a business owner and you already have your own customers, very likely you're writing a book to get more customers like them. So one of your most trusted customers that you have a great relationship with could be one of the people that you ask to be one of your beta readers. You also want to include people who are in your industry and are familiar with your industry, who you respect, colleagues that you have a good relationship with, and who's not going to run off with your manuscript and try to take your idea. Okay. So anyone that you choose as your beta reader has to be someone you trust, but their opinion has to be able to relate to what it is that you do so that they can help you spot the gaps or ask you different questions that you may not have thought about that your book may need to address. So once they give you that feedback, you go into self-editing. So what's self-editing? It is when you are brutally honest, knife to the heart honest, okay? You have to be brutally honest with yourself and read your manuscript with a high degree of objectivity. You have to place yourself in your reader's shoes and read it as though a reader might. And do not just assume that, well, I wrote this. Everything that I wrote is the best thing since sliced bread. Don't do that. Okay. You're not helping yourself and you're not helping your reader. Now, I have an entire video that breaks down some steps and suggestions for self editing that are going to help you become as objective as you possibly can. That's this video right here. And of course, I'll go ahead and link it down in the description box for you. And while you're down there searching for those links, did you already give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel? Okay. All right. Now, investing the time to get your beta readers to read your manuscript and get back to you, hopefully in a timely manner, incentivize them, baby, okay? If you need to cook for them, cook for them. If you need to go over to their house and clean for them, clean for them. Baby, do whatever you have to do, okay, to incentivize and make sure that they get back to you in a timely manner so that you get to keep on your schedule. But investing this time is going to save you money in rounds and rounds and rounds of editing in the long run. So if you came into wanting to write and self-publish a book and you want to have this really expedited time frame, You may want to relax that a little bit just to make sure that you take the time to make sure your words are pristine and that your book is hitting the mark that you need it to hit. So, self editing and going through beta readers can take a little bit of extra time. So, please be sure that you plan for it. And if you don't want to take the extra time, then be sure that you are ready to spend the money to hire a professional who will turn your project around in a quicker time frame. Writing and self publishing a book is a lot. It's a huge investment of time, resources, money. And investing in making sure, like I said, that your words are as pristine as possible when you go to publication is money well invested because your book is there to help you establish or expand your personal brand, your professional brand, help you get more clients and opportunities. But those things won't happen if your book doesn't land in the hands of the right people, if your book doesn't land in the hands of your target market. And just because you wrote it doesn't mean they're going to read it. They got to know about it. Okay. You cannot rely just on word of mouth marketing alone. You cannot rely on just trying to rank in Amazon for a couple of keywords. You have to have more than just a great, well written book. It's not going to just sell itself, which leads me into my third point. Your book won't sell itself. You need a marketing plan. So, the third thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video was you don't want to hire an editor for your thought leadership business book unless you have at least a preliminary marketing plan and a clearly defined audience that you can tap into so that you can recoup everything that you invest in writing and self publishing your book. So, simply writing a well written book is not enough to sell it. People talk a lot about, hey, I want to write a bestseller. And in this video here, I tell you why that's not possible right in the first couple of minutes. I'll link it down for you in the description box. A well written book is expected. That is the standard. That's why you're investing the time and the money into beta readers and rounds of editing, right? But that's just a creative process. You need to flip a switch in your mind that turns you from creative mode into marketing mode. And selling your book taps into a different set of skills. And I'm going to say something a little bit bold, maybe a little bit of a hot take. If you do not have a plan for marketing your book, I wouldn't invest any money into editing your book unless you just want to write this book because you want to write this book and you don't care about the sales, you don't care about the, getting anything back from it, and it's just a vanity project for you, then by all means spend the money that you want to spend and, get that book out of you. Fine. But I don't think it's a really wise use of your time and your money. Now, I was recently having a conversation with one of my previous clients, and I'd helped her edit her book. The book has been available for a little while. It's a great book. But she herself has admitted that she hasn't been the best at marketing her book, even though I'm always giving her suggestions and examples of things to do. But that's okay. She's coming around. But she was wondering and asking me about my past work as a voiceover artist and wondered how much I would charge her for recording her audiobook. And I said, I could do that, but I don't want to take your money until I see you really putting a big effort into marketing your existing book. And I said, you should really let the demand determine when and if you invest in having someone record the audiobook for you. And even nowadays, you have AI software that will do it at a fraction of the cost. Some people want to work with a human talent, and others will say, "No, that's okay. I want to go with the robotic voice. That sounds human." I'm not here to debate that. My point is, either way, whether you're paying a human or whether you're paying an AI service, it's another expense. And I said, hey, don't invest that money until you have a solid plan and demand. And you want to have people and fans saying, hey, do you have this in the audiobook? Like you need to be hearing that 5, 10, 15 times a day. Then that's a great signal that your audience will support purchasing the audiobook so that you can recoup the money that you invest to have that done. So, as a self published author, you really have to think about publishing books as a business. It's a business unto itself, or it is an additional mini business within your career or within your business, the LLC or the S corp that you already have. And this is something that a lot of people don't even think about until the book is published and they're like, oh, wait, there's no sales coming in. There's no, after that initial rush of you told all your family and friends, you made your posts online and you've got your couple of sales trickling in that first and second week, and then things die down. It's like, oh, well, why isn't my book continuously selling? Because you aren't continuously marketing. Okay. And you cannot expect that just placing your book on Amazon, getting a ranking in that first or second week, that's going to continue to sell your book for you. These platforms do not care what they sell. They only care that they sell anything. And especially a place like Amazon, where your book is competing with lipstick, nail products. Yeah, get a shot of the nails. Get a shot of the nails. If you want to see how I do my nails, I started a whole nail channel, baby. I'll link that down below for you too. You can see how I did it. Okay. But anyway, I mean, and I'm just talking about my Amazon feed. Okay. So Amazon will send me these little emails talking about, oh, well, since you like this book, you might like this book. And you might also like this lipstick. And you might also like this nail product. Okay. It's the wild, wild west of selling. Your buyers are distracted. And even if they're on a website that's dedicated to books, such as barnesandnobles.com, there's still so many other books that you have to compete with. And how you stand out in the marketplace and why you need to give people a reason to buy your book, that is an ongoing process as an author. And it doesn't matter whether you are a self published author or a traditionally published author. All authors need to continuously promoting themselves and promoting their book. You have to decide what are going to be the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual activities that you will engage in to continuously grow and develop awareness for your book, drive sales, and continue to grow your audience and your author platform. Now, you don't necessarily have to have everything figured out at the beginning stages of writing your book, but you should at least have a plan of action. What are you going to do for your book launch? What are you going to do for continuous marketing? One of the things that people normally do is go on a lot of podcasts. So even while you're writing, you have a clear indication of who your audience is. Think about, well, what are different types of podcasts that the people who would read this book are listening to? Let me figure out how I'm going to get myself and pitch myself to be a guest on that podcast so I can present my ideas and my book. And that's just one thing you could think about. There's so many other things that you can think about, but at least if you have if you have those things in place and you're already starting to plan and think about that, then by all means, go ahead and invest that money in your professional editing because you know you have a plan for recouping that investment of time and money, and that you're going to reap the rewards of getting more opportunities for your business, for your career. So if you're at a place where you haven't even thought of how to get started with marketing your book, I have an entire resource on my channel called the Sell Your Book Podcast. Now, it's been on hiatus for a little while, but I do plan on bringing it back in 2026. But the episodes that are already there are so super valuable. I speak with everyday authors, nobody famous that you've ever heard of. These are everyday people, everyday professionals, everyday business owners who have been quietly selling their books and increasing their brand, increasing their income, increasing their opportunities. Go and steal their secrets. In fact, if you haven't watched or listened to any of the episodes, I highly recommend checking out this conversation with one of my past clients. In our conversation, she breaks down a lot of her strategies that she uses to sell her books without social media. And this conversation was so much fun. You're going to be smiling and giggling like we were from the outset. So click on that video right now so that we can show you how to start selling your book without social media. And I'll see you on the other side.